Hi people, welcome to the Run Testers and to our review of the brand new Veja Condor 3. This is a neutral daily running shoe that aims to deliver on easy run performance while also leaving a lighter footprint on the planet and the environment. Now, it's fair to say that creating non-petroleum based running shoes that live up to their fossil fuel reliant rivals has been difficult for brands to achieve. The majority of efforts so far haven't quite hit the mark, with eco midsole foams coming up too firm, not cushioned or lively enough. So the big question here is whether this third gen Veja Condor with its new EVA midsole foam made from sugarcane and its 3 ISPO Awards finally conquers that challenge. Let's get into it in our Veja Condor 3 review. So let's give you some quick details then, and starting with the stack height, the Veja Condor 3 has 37mm in the heel, 29mm in the forefoot for an 8mm drop. Weight-wise, it tips the scales at 11.1 ounces or 314 grams in the UK men's 8.5 test shoe size that I've got here. That's one of the heaviest shoes going, the same heft as the Asics Gel Nimbus 26. When it comes to price, the Veja Condor 3 will set you back £160 in the UK and $200 in the US. Moving on to that quick shoe whip round then, and starting with the new midsole, what you've got here is a big stack of what Veja calls L foam cushion. It's quite hard to get the exact detail of what this foam is made of. It's quite a convoluted mix from what Veja tells me, but it seems to be part latex, part sugarcane EVA cushion that aims to offer high shock absorption. It's also heat resistant and it should have a good long-term resiliency, aka it will retain its bounce back energy for longer. And Veja says the foam has 80% energy return. That's a big leap on. Now, there's also a Pebax R new heel insert that's added to boost comfort and protect against impact on landings. Up top, the Condor 3 has engineered mesh uppers made for 100% recycled polyester. It's got plenty of perforations here across the top of the toe box. It's also got quite a lot of added TPU panels here on the shoe to add structure and help with the hold security. There's also TPU overlays around the toe box, and that should help with durability and protection. There's a fairly plush heel collars here, nice padding, flat wrap tongue with an internal sort of bootie that starts midway down inside the shoe. You've got lock glaze style laces and an external heel clip here for added heel security as well. If you flip them over, there's a generous covering of fairly thick outsole rubber here, and it has these kind of little studs as well to enhance the grip. In fact, there's more than a little bit of trail shoe vibes going on here overall for what is a road shoe. When it comes to fit, I ran in my regular running shoe size, which is a UK 8.5, and I described the fit as unfussy and roomy. It's pretty easy to get them feeling comfortable on the foot. There's a really good amount of room in the toe box here. The heels hold well for me. I did have some mild movement elsewhere in the shoe, with the midfoot hold not being absolutely bang on. It does feel sort of spacious, but there's nothing troubling here. And weight aside, I think the Condor 3 does a pretty good job of melting away into the background and letting you get on with the business of running. And overall, I would recommend going true to size in these shoes.
So fit for me in general has been very good on the Veja Condor 3, but I would caveat that by saying that Veja kind of recommends sizing up in this shoe. Now, I've had mine in a UK size 8, so that is my typical running shoe size. Now, I'd say going in that size has been fine for me, but what I would say is that when I've run in kind of slightly thicker socks, it has definitely felt like a bit more of a snug fit here, particularly up front of the toes where maybe it can feel a little bit cramped. So I do think maybe it's worth looking at playing around with those sizes, because there may be an issue there in terms of going your usual size. So that's something to be mindful of here. I think elsewhere, I've had no real issues in terms of the midfoot, the hold there, the good level of padding here at the heel. It's not overly excessive in terms of that padding, no kind of heel rub or slippage. Lock down the laces and tongue has been fine as well for me. It's a pretty skinny tongue here, but that hasn't caused any problems. It hasn't kind of moved around for me either. So yeah, as I said, I've had them on a UK size 8. That's my typical running shoe size, but I do think that there may be an argument, particularly when Veja kind of does suggest it as well, sizing up in this shoe, because it can feel a little bit snug and has done on some runs where I have worn slightly thicker socks.
Now, in testing, I've done around 45 kilometers in the Veja Condor 3. Pretty much all of those miles have been slow, easy recovery runs. I've thrown in the odd faster mile during some of those runs to check the upper pace potential and push to kind of middling pace. But the weight alone of this shoe, at well over 300 grams, undoubtedly limits it to being an easy day shoe in my mind, unless you really like to train fast in big heavy shoes, that is. I don't, so I've used it and judged it based on how it performs at easy paces up to middling pace, and for that I think it's been a very reliable performer really. Now, along with the new high-low impact and the Zen Running ZR01, I think we're finally starting to see that the more eco-conscious running shoes are really starting to improve. That harsh, hard, firm sort of midsole ride that many of the earlier shoes suffered from has been replaced by much more capable, competent and cushioned foams. And when it comes to a plush, comfortable ride, I think the Veja Condor 3 is certainly a big step on from its predecessor, and it's closed the gap for sure on a lot of the rivals in this space, like the New Balance 1080 V13, the Brooks Ghost Max, the Asics Gel Nimbus 26. The ride here is soft, there's a little bit of bounce but not a great deal, and the Condor 3 I think does a good job of taking the edge off any harshness from the road, particularly when you're moving with sort of slower, maybe heavier landings. It's a heavy shoe, there is no getting away from that, and there's quite a lot of shoe on the foot here. But I didn't find it to be too sluggish and ponderous like some shoes can be. I didn't find it to be burdensome when I was clipping along easy. And I got really good stability from what is quite a wide platform, and from a shoe that will happily take trips onto light off-road without any trouble, thanks to what you've got here, which is a sort of slightly more reinforced outsole tread here. I'd say the overall reinforcements of the shoe should lend themselves well as well to getting good mileage out of this shoe. They feel sort of durable from that perspective. I also like that Veja has gone for lock laces here, always a good thing in my book. For some reason they're really, really long though. It's a bit odd, but it's kind of a minor quirk, but they are very long. You have to sort of do about 16 loops.
So into that run test, and I haven't done 50k in the shoe just yet, so what I'm going to do is give you my kind of more general thoughts on this shoe, but I have done enough running in this shoe, I think, to form a good opinion of what works here, what I think, you know, is very much still a work in progress, and whether ultimately it is a shoe that has been an enjoyable one to run in. Now, I haven't run in the previous Veja Condor shoes. I have run in other kind of more sustainably made running shoes from Allbirds, from the likes of Zen Running Club, and also kind of more established, obviously, running brands, so Mizuno, Saucony, with things like the Triumph RFG. So I've got a good sense of what is working, what still needs improvement, where the kind of, you know, where we are with sustainably made running shoes, and I think we are going the right direction, but it is still a little bit of work to be done. And I think on that front, I think there was two key things I was looking for from the Condor 3 in my time, was how it kind of managed getting the weight down, because ultimately I think generally I found kind of the shoes that I've run in, that's where it's been an issue, the weight, and compared to kind of less sustainably kind of made running shoes, and also the midsole and what you're getting from the midsole, and whether, you know, it's delivering a ride and experience that makes it a nice shoe to run in, and a shoe that you're going to want to run in on a regular basis. I'll start with the good stuff, and the good stuff being that it looks like a Veja shoe, and if that's something you want, something that looks good, then ultimately that is what you're going to get here. And I've had no problems going out and just kind of walking around in this shoe. You know, it delivers that kind of good look. So from that point of view, it works well. And the upper, for me, has worked really well as well too. That's never, for me, not really been an issue in terms of the progress of sustainably made running shoes. So those are all kind of positives for me. And we talk about the weight. Now, mine weighs in at 300 grams, so that is definitely heavier than other cushioned daily trainer shoes, which I think this is where the Veja Condor 3 sits. It's not a performance shoe. Veja doesn't, you know, make it out to be a performance shoe. It really is a shoe that you're going to get a good level of comfort, something that you're going to use for kind of easy runs, long runs, regular runs, where it kind of pressures off kind of type of kind of runs, and maybe you want to run a little bit quicker, but, you know, it's not going to be speed work type of kind of faster running. So the weight, yeah, it's heavier than a lot of cushioned daily trainer shoes, but I found that, you know, it's not been a cumbersome and bulky shoe to wear either. I definitely would like it to be a bit lighter, but ultimately it hasn't felt like a hindrance for me in the runs that I've done in it. Now, the midsole, I think that's a key thing for me, and where the biggest work needs to be done on kind of sustainable running shoes. And I think in terms of what you're getting here on the Veja Condor 3, so it's kind of a sugarcane based EVA foam, then you've got kind of Amazonian rubber in here as well. So what I think, you know, I found in other shoes, they always seem to be a little bit on the firm side, and that was my major concern with the Condor 3. But actually I was surprised to find that it runs relatively kind of soft. It's not overly plush in any stretch of the imagination, but it definitely isn't overly firm either. What I found in the ride, it actually has a kind of nice rocker in it. It's pretty smooth, transitions are pretty nice on it, and, you know, it felt pretty good at easy pace. I think that's where it excels best. And I've tried to pick the pace up a little bit in it, kind of maybe dropping it down to kind of 750 minute mile pace. I think maybe it's a bit more of a chore to run in this shoe, but I don't think that's what it's built for. But when I've kind of gone up a little bit slower than that, maybe kind of 8:10, 8:20, it's felt absolutely capable of running at that pace. I mean, easy pace for me is kind of 9-minute miles. So to give you a sense of how I'm running my slowest and maybe running a little bit more up tempo in this shoe, it absolutely isn't a shoe that you're going to want to run quicker in. And I feel it feels a little bit awkward when you want to run quicker in this shoe. But I don't think that's what it's built for ultimately. And that's, I think when you stick to what it's ultimately good for, I think it works really well. Now that midsole kind of, it's a little bit kind of Clifton-esque, I would say, in terms of the experience. And I think the types of runs probably feel similar in terms of what I would use the Clifton for and what I'd use the Veja Condor 3 in. It maybe isn't as agile as something like the Puma Velocity Nitro 3, things like the Nike Pegasus as well. I think outsole wise, I think, there's a good amount of rubber here. I've generally been running in kind of dry conditions. I did run after it had been raining, so there was some slightly wetter kind of parts of my route on the pavements, and it was fine. It maybe did slip around slightly, but there is definitely plenty of rubber here to kind of make sure you're going to get good grip. Maybe the formation layer isn't absolutely been nailed, but I think in general, I think durability wise, the types of runs you're probably going to use it for, it feels well suited. So yeah, based on my kind of general, the runs that I have done, and I've got to kind of 25 miles in this shoe, I felt like my experience has been pretty good. Surprisingly, I think when you're running kind of easy in this, it works well. When you want to slightly up the tempo, it's absolutely fine. Get a little bit faster, it feels a little bit more awkward to do that, but there's a nice kind of rocket ride in there. It's pretty smooth in terms of that ride. And yeah, pretty surprising in terms of my experience in the Veja Condor 3, particularly as this is my first version of the Condor that I've run in.
Verdict then, there's a lot right about this shoe, even if it's not perfect. Now, for the miles I've run, I've enjoyed this shoe more than most of the sustainable shoes that I've tested over the years. I think we're finally getting to a point where kind of so-called eco-running shoes look and perform like regular running shoes, which is a good thing. Now, the Condor 3 suggests that the days of compromising on the ride when you're trying to do something better for the planet are coming to an end, and that's a great thing. For me, this is standard easy day fare, big cushion stack with a bit of bounce. It's a shoe that might have the Nimbus looking over its shoulder. It's certainly a shoe that has a casual runner, everyday kind of wear crossover here. It will suit heavier runners too, I'm pretty sure of that. It's not as lively as the new Hilo Impact, another eco-friendly shoe that launched recently. We've got a video on the channel about that if you want to go and find out that. But it's a long way ahead of the recent Allbirds shoes, and I really like the fact that it's almost built to handle road to light off-road too. It's a kind of no-nonsense shoe in that sense. Yes, it makes it heavier, but I reckon this shoe should still be going strong well over 500 miles. However, there is one big caveat here. They've priced it £20 to £30 too high in my book. Take away the environmental story and there are equal or better shoes for logging easy miles that are cheaper or similarly priced. The Saucony Ride 17, the Brooks Ghost Max, even the Asics Nova Blast 4, which is a slightly different proposition but can do everything that the Condor 3 does and more for much less. So I fear you're kind of still paying a premium here, whether that's for the Veja name or for those more sustainable credentials, the materials, do they cost more to produce, those kind of things. It's not entirely clear where that money goes, but as much as I think this is a perfectly capable easy day shoe, I have to say for that reason I don't think it would be my first choice as a purchase. I think you can do better for less out there.
So some thoughts on the Veja Condor 3, and I have to say I'm actually been pleasantly surprised with my experience running this shoe. I think my feeling of most of the sustainable running shoes that I've run in is that I've probably, they've been fine, but have I wanted to run more in them and, pick them up again and run with them? Maybe not so much. I feel like with the Veja Condor 3, there definitely is a kind of cushion daily trainer feel to this shoe. It's definitely more easy pace cushion daily trainer feel. Things like the New Balance 1080 V13, kind of things like the Clifton, things like the Asics Gel Nimbus, that kind of type of cushion daily trainer shoe. Now, is it a shoe that's bettering those shoes? I don't think it is, but from a sustainable kind of running shoe kind of category, I've definitely preferred this to something like what I've got from the Allbirds. I think kind of things from like Zen Running Club, I think that has more of a slightly more up-tempo edge to it, but I found like the overall kind of feel of the shoe, I feel like I found this more comfortable overall and felt like a shoe that I would actually pick up and want to kind of feel comfortable running in again. It is one of those shoes where I think if I had one shoe to kind of take away and I just wanted to do some running, some casual kind of running, maybe wanted to just log like some kind of easy long runs, And I feel like this is a shoe that I'd be happy to do it in. The other way to kind of look at it is, yeah, a cushioned daily trainer shoe, when you compare it, it's £160, you compare it to what else is out there. As I said, is it better than things like the Gel Nimbus, the 1080 V13, things like Pure Velocity Nitro 3? No, it isn't ultimately. There's absolutely different shoes that I would pick over this. But I think if you are conscious of having a more sustainable running shoe, you are looking for a cushioned daily trainer shoe that is mainly predominantly built for those kind of easier runs and slightly quicker runs, but not absolutely not kind of speed and kind of interval work, then this is a shoe that can absolutely do it. I think from a sustainable running shoe point of view, I think there's a lot of progress here, which I think is a real kind of step forward here. Yeah, I mean, weight-wise, definitely would like it a little bit lighter. Looks great. But I do think that, you know, against other cushioned daily trainer shoes that are not so sustainably made, would you pick it over those? Maybe not. But I think if you frame it in that sense that it's a sustainable running shoe and what it wants to deliver and how it delivers it, I think absolutely there's a lot that Veja gets right here on the Condor 3.
So there you have it. That's been our review of the new Veja Condor 3. We hope you found it helpful. Don't forget to like, subscribe and ring that bell for more great Run Testers videos when they land on the channel. If you're interested in more sustainable shoes, you might want to check out our first run look at the Hilo Impact. A bit of a livelier, faster shoe that might interest some people. I'm going to pop that on the channel right about now. Otherwise, thanks for watching and we hope to see you again soon on the Run Testers. Happy running, people.